Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody's doing well. And welcome to episode 11 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Do you see what I see? I already see a typo in the episode, so just bear with me. Give me a little grace today. It's going to be one of those days, but I'm really, really excited about the fact that I have a fantastic guest that's going to walk us through something that's a really important topic, which is autism. So really excited to have this guest be with me today, and I'm going to let them in right now. So welcome on the live. Oh, let's see. Hope you all are doing well. Waiting for the person to just accept to go live with me. But again, it's an interesting Saturday, kind of rainy, kind of blah over on this side of the country. Hopefully it's a little bit nicer where you are. And so that is what we're going to do. But again, really excited to have this topic because I think it's really, really important. As you know, for those of you who know, and here she comes. Oh, we're seeing lots of toys. I want to have all those toys. Hello and welcome.
Hey.
Hey, so today we have with us Tiffany. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you all in a second. But before I do that, I do this the same way every single time. So if it's your first time being with us, I start off with what tea I'm going to be drinking because it is, again, Sipping Tea with Stacey T. So today's tea is black currant. Black currant breeze from Twining. So it says that it says savor the sweet and tangy flavor of juicy black currants in this aromatic tea. Let's see. I don't know, guys. I haven't been all that. This is Twining's. Last time I think I had Charbrew. So we shall see what's what with that. Are you drinking tea today, Tiffany? You are not? How dare you be on Sipping Tea with Stacey T with no tea?
I already have my coffee. Sorry.
Coffee. Okay. How do you make your coffee?
I have the Costello coffee espresso.
Oh, you're an espresso drinker. Serious business. My goodness. I can't even...
Well, I kind of need a lot of energy.
I can imagine.
My day starts at 2 o'clock in the morning, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you put anything in your coffee, or you just drink straight espresso?
I do use creamer, but I use caramel macchiato.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do the man, espresso is strong though. Put hair on your chest.
2 a.m.
Yeah,
2 a.m.
No, she's like, let me remind you, I said 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. Okay, so while I'm letting this steep get a little bit and get a little of the flavor in there, Tiffany, maybe introduce to people who are watching yourself and how I know you.
Well, I'm Tiffany. Stacy and her sister Cheryl know me because they know me since I was little. We grew up together, basically. Yeah, we go to the same church. Well, now we don't because I live in Wisconsin. And her sister is my daughter's godmother. And her other sister, Andrea, is my daughter's godmother because they had a huge impact on my life. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. It is awesome, and you picked good. It's important to pick people that you know are going to have a good level of love for your child. Because I'm a godmother as well, and it's important when people pick a godparent. It can't be something that's done lightly because you have to really think this person is going to have to love on my kid just like I do. This person is going to have to, support my child. And I think sometimes people don't understand like that can be. And so, really excited to be able to talk to you a little bit about that. So today is going to be our because we have a window into a really important topic, which is autism awareness. So I'm just going to read the definition for those of you who are not familiar with what autism is at all. Kind of a long definition, so I'll try to read it quickly. But autism spectrum disorder, which is ASD, is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects how people communicate, interact, and behave. It's characterized by difficulties in social communication and interaction, and by of behavior or interest. These differences can present in varying degrees, hence the term spectrum. So oftentimes what we're going to be talking about, because it's a spectrum, Tiffany's going to give you insight into her world, which is part of the spectrum. It has lots of different pieces of how you can see how it is shown. So what I will say is, I think back in the day when we grew up, well, I'm older than Tiffany, but you know, growing up, they definitely didn't have like something that was called autism. They thought all kids that didn't behave were just bad. You know, that kid doesn't know how to behave themselves. They don't know how to, you know, act right. Their family clearly doesn't know how to discipline them. Like that's, I think, how they looked at every single child. Like every child was in a box. They should all be able to act just so. They should all be able to think and behave in a specific way. And if you can't get your kid to do that, then one, you're not a good parent. And two, you know, your kid is, you know, needs to be prayed for. Yes, your child does need to be prayed for. Every child should.
Right.
However, that's how I think they looked at every single child the same. In the past, I would say even 20 years, there's been a lot more information. They kind of first started off when you talk about the spectrum, talking about like ADD, right? And then they started with ADHD, and then they autism and other things. Now these types of and I hate using the term disorder because I really think of it as just neurodivergence, something that's different than what people atypical. Right. I don't like calling it a disorder. I mean, that's just me. But what I will say is people didn't know a lot. And there's been so much research done. So there's now a way for people to be able to see into the mind and kind of the behaviors of how each child presents. So let's go back. And again, I've told Tiffany she can give me as much information as she wants, or she can say, I'm not going there, right? So we're going to give her grace. But if you can, talk to me about your first, before you even, I don't know if did you know about autism before you had your daughter?
Honestly, my daughter was diagnosed at 3 months old by her godmother, Janine Burrell, who is a physician, physical therapist, but she has her PhD. She knew the signs right off. I had no idea. She was only just 3 months old. Once I noticed why she wasn't walking, I had some concerns because I guess.
How many months was that?
She was supposed to start standing at least at 7, 8 months because I had her like doing a lot of standing. Her mobility was really off. Just her leg stance was really off because I was literally having her stand to try to, like in the little exerciser or the walker, and she would just be limp. Like I had her propped up with a lot of towels, blankets, and I knew, okay, there's something really different after. And I literally took it under consideration after she had said that diagnosis, but I really pressured the doctors, like, no, we're going to really go through with this because we're not waiting to the last minute. I'm one of those parents that don't wait to the last minute.
Yeah, no, and that's true. Having known her, that is true. But go back to even before you had her. Before you had her, had you heard about autism as a thing? No. Did you know anything about it at all?
No, all I heard about is ADHD because I was diagnosed myself with ADHD, and you got whooped. Plain simple, you got whooped. Or you had to do a puzzle or something. Like you had to stay busy, but mostly I got whooped. So that's all that really matters.
I'm just giving my experience.
Just got whooped.
So when you heard when you first heard, because I'm going to bring in some of the things I've heard
Mm-hmm.
from a variety of parents, because I think, growing up, I definitely grew up in a family that kept us busy. I mean, we were so busy anyways because we had church and school, and church for us was like 5 days a week. It was right. So church and
Right.
school, and then you had activities and stuff. So we were definitely kept very, very busy. But I think often when people think, oh, somebody has ADHD or they have a kid that's overactive, is what they'll sometimes call,
Right.
kids that have that. They'll say, just keep them busy. That's all you need to do is just keep them busy.
Right.
And, and I get it. Sometimes I don't necessarily demonize the people from back in the day, because what you don't know, you don't know. When you know better, you should be doing it, right?
Right.
But when you first heard about, your child potentially having this, as you said, Janine, kind of diagnosed, and obviously then you had to try to get testing done and
Right.
whatnot. How did you feel? Because I think that,
Mhm.
when I hear parents that get the diagnosis, there's a range of emotions that some
Right.
parents go through. How did you feel? What was your first kind of?
Honestly, basically the Holy Spirit gave me that inkling, like, you're gonna be doing this,
Mm,
one by yourself, but you have to let God help you raise her. So basically, I'm literally following the instructions of God leading me how to raise her. Yes, I take people's opinions, or people's structure, but I learned to take it and leave it.
yeah.
So,
Definitely, I think in all parenting, and I'm obviously not a parent, but all parents that I know say, lots of people give you lots of guidance. You should do this with your child. You should do this with your child. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the expert in your child and kind
right,
of the things that work and don't work. And sometimes you don't see things, and you do need the other outside influences. I think it's ignorant to like say, no, nobody can tell me anything about my kids. Like, because sometimes you just don't see things, right? And having been a teacher, when I was teaching, I would see lots of behaviors that I'm like, I don't know if their parents see this. I bet you they're different at home than they are at school. So sometimes I'll be able to give that. But it's funny because I've talked to some parents, and when they found out their child was, some type of neurodivergent, because they didn't really know where they fell on the spectrum,
right,
they mourned it. Like, they felt such sadness, because their child's life might be different than what they had imagined being
right,
pregnant. And they were like, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my child's life? And so that was really something that they had to go through that process. And I've told people, like, look, how you felt is how you felt. Like, don't beat yourself up, because I think every pregnant woman has, like, and I think would think the fathers too. You have an idea of what you expect of your, being a parent, right? Of being a parent, and what your child is going to be like. And I think it's what you said was really, really interesting, is that you already felt God told you ahead of time, like, okay,
right,
your path is going to be different.
right,
One of the things you said was interesting, is that you knew that you were going to have to kind of do it by yourself.
right.
That in itself, I think, would be a lot of people, and there are lots of single parents, right? That's a thing. It's very much a thing. But do you think that has made the journey, especially in like the younger ages when you're finding out things, was that added stress? Like, tell me about
Oh
those
yeah.
early days.
No, you are literally stressed. I do vent a lot to my circle. I literally had to make a small circle. I literally mentally had to say, you know what, you have to make a small circle, because not everybody is going to give you that positive structure. So I just learned to look towards your sisters, and basically her godparents. I do have some insights on some of my aunts, but mostly her godparents, because they're learning, they're trying to learn, they're trying to understand, and God forbid something happens to me, I have to push towards having a person take her,
Mhm.
and I have to be able to trust you. And I'm not a person that trusts a lot, to be honest. I really don't.
Well, that's
So,
normal. I think that's normal. And I think trusting someone for yourself is very different than trusting somebody to raise your child, right? That's like two entirely different beasts. That's why, as I said to you earlier, super important, the people that you choose to be godparents, they can't just be godparents on paper. They have to be somebody who's mentally, emotionally, and financially, let's be honest, able to take care of your child. And it's interesting because, you know, I remember early on, you know, my first godchild, and they were, you know, thinking that, because I have two, thinking that, you know, maybe there might be something wrong, and people saying, well, if you don't want to be the godparent, and I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, the reality, and I get why somebody may say that, because an additional set of things that you don't necessarily think about, to the point where I don't think people really think about what it means. I think they're like, oh, it's a good title, but real life stuff. Right. So with you, let's like, when you first found out, what was like the series of tests, and how long was the testing period, or does it stop? Tell us everything that you can about that initial finding out period, and then the testing you had to undergo.
She was 2. They had to wait till she was 2 to get her actually tested, and I had my aunt with me to get her tested, and I was upset, but I didn't let myself linger in that point. I just thought of a positive way. She's smart. I didn't think of anything negative. I just said she's smart. But as the years got on, testing, I didn't know, because not only is Leanna diagnosed with autism, Leanna is also diagnosed with infancy feeding disorder dysphasia, where she has 100% G-tube feeding tube dependence. She does not eat anything oral. You can't get chapstick on the girl. So, I mean, basically nothing goes in her mouth. It's hard. She has sensory processing disorder, where she only wears 2 types of clothing. I just had her tested mentally for, as the years get longer, they test them at a certain point for their mental status, and she just got tested at 13. So they not only just test them at 2 for autism, but they test them later on. They don't just test them like every single year. They literally wait. And that's a grueling process to wait, because it's like, you know, something's wrong. And literally autism teaches you patience, but when you really know something's wrong, you can't get it just done right then and there. You have to wait.
Which has to be challenging. That has to be challenging, because I know that most parents just want to fix their kids, right? They want to fix anything that's a problem, or be able to give people, not to say that there's any problem with her. That's not what I meant. So before anybody comes for me, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is parents like to fix, right?
Right.
And, you know, when you're like, and I know there's something there, I want to be able to give this person all the tools so that they're successful. Right. But you're not even telling me what I need to focus on. And that's got so frustrating. And I know that you just said patience. But so when she was 2 and she went through the process of tests, how many tests were there? And how long?
There's only one. 2 years old, they only tested her. There was only one test. And she had to go through birth to 3. Once they diagnose you with autism, you go to a birth to 3 program. Then you go to the Wisconsin Early Autism Project right through. And then you join the Child Long-Term Support Program. It's a waiver program that you're on for life, basically.
Is that for you or for the child?
No, that's for her.
Okay.
That's for her. So it's a child long-term program. She's on there for life. Really, she'll go there until she hits 18. And then she goes to the adult long-term waiver.
Okay.
That's if we're still out here. We're literally still looking for more support systems, because we're trying to relocate for better sources right now, because she's going to be hitting high school soon, and she really needs a lot of support. She needs accommodations. She needs somebody because she's flight risk. That's another autism word that they call flight risk, where a person, if they see a relative that looks just like them, they just walk off. And my kid will literally walk off. So that's why they call it flight risk.
Now, when did they tell you all this? Because I mean, I'm hearing all this and I'm thinking to myself, my God, this is a lot, right? A lot to process, a lot for you to take in. When did they, as you know, you said they gave you one test at 2. When did they start to understand like all of these things, that she's a flight risk or that she has, I'm assuming the feeding tube disorder they figured out fairly early. But like,
oh yeah, feeding. The feeding tube was when she was an infant, basically, because she had an NG tube, and I nursed her for 17 months because she was diagnosed with torticollis on the left side. So I had to nurse her one side, on the left side only, because she couldn't turn her neck, which is tightening of the muscle of the neck, which is what torticollis is. And when I did that, they noticed that she wasn't nursing long. You know, when you nurse, you get the fat out of the milk. Well, she only nursed for like 2 minutes and went to sleep. So she wasn't getting the fat out of the milk to gain the weight. So because she wasn't gaining all the weight, she was losing. And I thought there was something wrong with the milk supply, but they said that it wasn't. It was just her. So before, even when she was born, to leave the hospital, she wasn't even trying to nurse. I had to call my aunt to like literally come help me because she wasn't even trying to nurse. But we worked along and tried to get it for her to do it, but we found out there was only 2 minutes that she would do it and she would just sleep. So we ended up having to notice that her weight would decrease. By the time she was 1, she was like 23, like 20 pounds, somewhere around there, and she just kept losing. So we had to get an NG tube, and then they decided to give her a Mickey button by the time she was 2. So all of that and being diagnosed with autism at the same time was a lot.
I can imagine, because you're telling me, and I know a lot of this stuff already, but just even hearing it, and hearing it, you know, in terms of like the order of how things were happening, I give you so much credit because, again, it's something that you didn't really know anything about, right? And now you're being thrust into this whole life of all these tests that you have to, and I don't care, you know, even when I hear, I'm not a parent, but when I hear a kid having to go through tests, that, you know, I'm like, oh no, they have to go through tests, what are they going to have to do with the kid and this and that? And so you're already set up for a life that you want, you know, your kid to have these tests, right? So that you can figure out, okay, what accommodations and what, and by the way, when people talk about accommodations, because people might be like, what are they talking about? One of the things, the tools, the supports, the research, what does this child need to be successful, to be whole, to be in the best positioning that they can be. So that's accommodation. So for example, somebody that has a hearing situation, maybe they have low hearing in one ear, maybe they need to have, you know, a hearing aid, or maybe that doesn't work for them, or, you know, that type of thing. That's what accommodations are. So for anybody, apologize for using terms that maybe you're like, what are you talking about? So you find out that, you know, she has to have this feeding tube. Do they tell you that it's going to be for life, or what are they telling you when they're putting it?
They actually gave us an inkling on she decides. Leanna made her choices at a young age. Leanna, if you know Leanna will tell you what it is, and that's it. That's what goes. She knows what she likes and doesn't like, and that's what goes. I got told by the GI physician, her last one, when she was 10, that if she doesn't eat by the time she's 10, that's it. Leanna's 13. Leanna will not eat. She last tried something when she was like last year, and it was only a fingernail thin of banana.
Oh, okay. And did she like it?
And that was a struggle to get it in. It was a fingernail thin. But you also have to be aware too, Leanna can choke on water. Yeah, a drop of water, she can choke on it. So you have to really be careful and watch her. That's what comes with the sensory processing disorder. Because nothing goes in her mouth. Nothing has been in her mouth for 13 years except breast milk. So, it's a lot. I thought she was allergic to bananas at the beginning, and I think that's where it came from because they tried to feed her at 6 months old, and I think that's where it started. And then she got changed. She had a test done, and then they ruled out bananas. Come to find out, it's banana skin. She can't touch banana skin. They said, nope, she can't touch the banana skin, but she can touch the banana. Or she can eat the banana, but she can't touch the banana skin. So I'm learning, taking in all the information, but I'm also observing her stuff at the house, and I relay it to the doctors on what I observe. So I'm basically taking pictures, writing notes down, and giving them to the doctors or sending them my chart to the doctors the day of that it happened so that we're all on one page.
Whew, I'm telling you, this is the interesting thing is, you look back on your own childhood, right? Because I'm like, as you're talking about, raising your daughter in this kind of this developmental age of her life, and I'm thinking back to myself during those years, and you can think back to yourself, and it's like the amount of information that you have had to like take in, process for yourself in order to, fight for her. And I'm just thinking like, back in the day, they didn't have these tools. Like there wasn't this language to even talk about this type of stuff. And so I can only imagine it. Sometimes it makes me wonder, like, man, what if they had this information about, different syndromes and different, what they call disorders or just neurodivergent behavior. Like what if they had known what types of things might be different? So as you were talking, you said something that was interesting to me because you mentioned the fact that, you had to keep trying different things. At what point, so because they're telling you, she's going to kind of decide, at what point do you decide to like say, okay, I'm going to try this or I'm going to push her? Because
I don't give her a choice. I don't give her a choice. I literally still try every day, but I don't push it because if you do push it, she'll back off completely, and then you have to start all over. So it's literally like if I push her, like say next month I push her at the beginning, and she totally backs off, I have to wait until the next month to try something.
So what types of things do you try food still, or what do you try?
Food is mainly my thing. Food is what I'm really trying, and the sippy cup is really what I'm trying because mentally you have to still think. Even though she's 13, Leanna is still 3. I just got told reading comprehension, she's 3. I find out soon but she's really good at numbers, really good at math and science. So she's not 3 across the board, but certain autistic kids still cater to infancy toys. So that's one of their like kind of things that they like to calm them and soothe them. I'm trying to break her out of it, which you can, because I'm not trying to make her a statistic on, okay, they go to that. No, she can find something, but, okay, you can have this as one toy, but you're not going to have a whole bunch of infant toys around here. So that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's good that I think there's so many parents that, and this is just from like my background in teaching and when I was on the school committee and I got to listen to a lot of kids that would fall under the special education department. And one of the things that I was learning is that there are some parents that just give into their kids whatever they want. Like they're not going to try anything new. They're not going to push and I heard this, one parent said that I must have done something wrong. I must have, maybe I didn't eat
I
the right
think
thing.
that too.
And I was just going to ask you that. Like,
I do think that too. I was just crying to Cheryl and Andrea, like, did I do something wrong when she got diagnosed at 3 years old? And they were like, girl, if I don't come over there and step on your bad foot, like, girl, bye. You need
not
to
the bad
stop.
one.
Like, so I do put myself down a lot, but I never really think about the positive. I really don't until somebody tells you. And as an autism mom, I'm gonna try to speak for all of them. We don't see the positive that we do because we're so busy. We're so busy trying to educate our kids and try to get them to that point where the other kids are doing stuff. But once we hear it, we're like, why didn't I think of that? Like, I'm
Yeah.
okay.
It's amazing to me when I look and having known you, it's just amazing to see. Like, I feel like so much of you as a kid is how you're able to be such a good mom. Like,
Thank
I feel
you.
like you literally, like, you are doing things that people wouldn't even think to do and giving grace in a way that's so special and so beautiful. And so even like when you were just up here not long ago and being able to see your level of just how you do things and you do, and again, I think to your point, you just do things because they're at this point so rare, done them so many times. Like some parents would be like, "Oh my gosh, my kid is doing this, and I'm in a different environment with my kid, and I'm afraid that they're gonna freak out." And you're just like, "Okay, this is what I gotta get done, and this is what I gotta get done." And it's wonderful to see you do it, but I don't think I know you hear me say it. You do not give yourself the credit because
No.
you're like, I just have to do it, right? If I'm not gonna do it, who's gonna do it? So, but do not negate that it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. What is one thing when you said you said, did I do something? What is it that you could have thought you did? I'm just curious because I do hear it a lot. Did you think that, you ate the wrong thing or like what is it that you thought you did?
Definitely not eat the wrong thing because, yeah, I really had to, when I got told I couldn't eat fruits and vegetables, like I was really shocked when I was pregnant with her. I was like, wait, what? And then that was it. But I literally pressured and then I said, okay, I'll do that. I'll do what they ask. I'll do, health wise. And I did, but they said there was nothing wrong. I was totally 100% healthy, carried her to 41 weeks, full term, and I literally don't know what happened. I
In
really
research,
don't.
in
I
research,
really don't know.
well, this is the thing in research that if you do any research, there is no like rhyme or reason, right? Sometimes,
Right.
oh, this thing, and it's funny because you mentioned that you felt like you had ADHD and you were diagnosed yourself. So I know a lot of people think, well, I had ADHD, so then that's why my kid had this.
Right.
A lot of times, and that's not the case. Like
That's not.
if you look at the research, it does not support that
Right.
because you have this, then your child has
Right.
X, Y.
Right.
But it's normal. I think. I mean,
Right.
I think any parent wants to find a reason. Right? Like you need to explain this to me why this is the case. Like why this is
Right.
my.
Because I have nothing, but I know that, for example, I passed many people and I literally use my daily routine as a testimony to other parents because they literally be looking at me like, how do you do this? And I'm like, why not? And
Yeah.
that's literally what God be telling me, like, why not you? So just do it. And that's it. That's all I could do.
You made a great segue, and it's funny because there's a question in the chat that says, "What is your day like from AM to PM?" Which is what I was going to ask you because you said you got up from 2 a.m., which
Literally.
thought of that.
Literally, Leanna has to get her feeding tube at 2 a.m. I don't go to bed till midnight. So basically I get an hour to 2 hours of sleep. And I still have to nap whenever she naps, if I get that, which I don't. So I literally have to basically feed her, do her feeding tube, monitor her toileting, because you're literally still potty training a 13-year-old. She's not fully potty trained. And basically, I homeschool her. So Leanna is 100% homeschooled now because of her medically complex situation that she can't go to school because of the pandemic. Leanna won't keep her mask on for 8 hours. So, and plus she needs a nurse, like a full-time nurse with her, because you have to be certified to pour the formula into the bag of the feeding machine. In case something goes wrong with the feeding machine, you can't rely on the teachers to fill up the bag. So that's basically why. And Leanna wears important orthotics to walk. So she needs somebody with her 24/7, basically. So that is basically what my day is like. So
Okay, so where are you eating? Where did you find yourself? Because you woke up at 2 a.m. I'm assuming you might have to use the bathroom, right, before your day starts. And then you have to make sure you're fed. So let me ask you, so walk me through your day, but I'm also curious, because you said she has to eat at 2. What happens if she does not eat at 2?
Leanna gets fatigued. You have to know Leanna's body system. If I don't feed her at 2, that's that. If I don't feed her at 2 and I feed her at 3, that's that extra hour I lose. And that's also another hour that she will have an accident in the bed because we co-sleep. Because Leanna knows how to take her Y port out and let everything just flow. So that's a lot. We are allowed that because her pediatrician said if you don't, then nobody gets sleep. So you're basically you're sleeping with an infant, even though she's 13.
Wow.
So you have to make sure that doesn't come out, because if that Mickey button comes out, I have to change it. And you do have to change the Mickey button as well, which I forgot to mention, which is a balloon port inside of her stomach. And if that deflates, you have to change it immediately. And if not, then we have to go to children's.
Wow. And it's just amazing because you know all these things now, right? So now you have like an expertise in how to manage your daughter's care. However, you didn't always, right? So there were certain things that you have to figure out on the fly, and then some things figure out by, unfortunately, taking that trip to the hospital, right? How long do you think it took you to understand, like, really a rhythm? Like, how long did it take you to kind of set a plan in order that worked, like, the best?
I'm a visual learner, so I watch and observe everything, which is one of my things that I do. I don't say much. Well, I do say a lot, but I watch. And I let it build up, and then I just shoot it at the person when they say that they didn't do something, or, no, I did see you at this time, and you wore this color, and da-da-da-da-da. They hate when I give information. That's basically what I do. But I learned from other autism moms as well. We have our own little community, but you do learn, but you all have your own journey. So you can't compare each other's journey. I know that I have another friend who has her son. He was G-tube fed, which she gave me confidence that Leanna would eventually get off of a G-tube because he was on the same time that she was on it. He got off. So that gives us confidence as well. So I always look to her for advice on what she did. But you can't compare because Leanna has sensory processing disorder.
Right.
So, and he doesn't. So that's the other thing. So you're back to square one.
Yeah, I think that that's a really important part to really keep in mind when we're talking about, any of these spectrum disorders or behaviors. What you'll notice that everybody kind of has a combo platter, right? Every combo platter is slightly different. So you're going to have somebody that may have a G2 that doesn't have sensory, or may have, you know, ADHD and ADD and something else. You know, so everybody is slightly different. So managing what is your regular now is going to be different. So the advice is different. They still be powerful, but they'll have to take what pieces they can, you know, from
Right.
one of the things you just mentioned that I'm really happy to hear about is kind of having a community of autism moms. How did you find that? Was that something that the hospital gave you, or?
Well, like I told you before, we had to go through the Wisconsin Early Autism Project, where that's where Leanna had to learn straight discipline, where you cannot get involved. They come to your house and they teach the child right here in the house what they need to do. So when they go into the community, they know what's expected of themselves. Leanna's a visual. So she has to have a lot of visual aids, which you can pretty much see behind us a little bit, and the others are on the other side of the wall. But she is a visual learner, and I use those as her independence to go look for the answer. So that way I'm not cuddling her as much as I want to, but I also show compassion as well, because it's not her fault that she doesn't know certain things, and I don't want her to get frustrated, like go find the answer, okay, you know, like shrug it off. I'm not one of those parents. I like to still show compassion and still show her, you know, I'll help you, but next time you have to do it by yourself. But you have to do a lot of repetitive, which I also learned that as well, that she has to do a lot of repetitive in order to do it by herself.
How long do you think? So if you're trying to teach something that's new, how many times do you, or how long of a period of time are you kind of doing something so that you're like, okay, I'm going to repeat it over 2 weeks, a month, I don't know how long it might take before she's able to grasp something that's new?
It took Leanna a month to put her braces on by herself. It took her a month before to touch Velcro, because she doesn't like the texture of Velcro. But anything purple gets the job done, which we learned. So we have to have everything in purple so that she can put her stuff on. So her braces are purple. She independently puts them on. She knows where the marker is to lock them. Her shoes are white, which she chooses her own shoes, which is medical adaptive shoes. That way she can slide and fasten the Velcro. She doesn't know how to tie her shoes yet because she doesn't like the texture of shoelaces. So that's another thing we'll have to work on, but that will probably take 1 year to 2 years for her to learn to tie her shoes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think that people recognize the amount of work. So that leads me to another question. It doesn't seem like you have the ability to leave, right? To leave and go to work. So what has that meant for you? Has that been a challenge where you wanted to have a job, or this is your job, right? But I'm just saying, like, maybe you wanted to have something. Did you have any of those moments of, man, I really wish that I could have? Or do you feel like because God had already prepared you, you're like where you're supposed to be? I'm not sure. And it could be a combo of both things.
Actually, I did try to sneak out, like, okay, God, I'm going to go put her in daycare, like, right down the street, and I did, and I got away with it for, like, 3 months until she had the allergic reaction, and then he was like, no, this is it, and I was like, okay, and that was it. I've been full-time, like, back-to-back stuff started happening. We had to have an endoscope done. Like, literally, that allergic reaction started opening so many doors of medically showing what's going on with my kid. Literally, we had to do an endoscope and everything, and then they found out, like, this is what the deal is.
Wow. Because I find, and first of all, thank you for sharing all this stuff, because I think that this gives, an amazing insight into what a mom's, life caring for and loving on her neurodivergent, beautifully different child. But what I'm curious about is, you know, if you were to if you were to meet, and this is why I say this, because I figure and I think I've always thought that people who are going through something or have gone through something are the best people to encourage or to talk to or to like run programs, or, you know, this is why I really want to have this conversation, because it's Autism Acceptance Month, which is by the blue and the blue.
Exactly.
But the reason why I really want to have this conversation is because I think that there are a lot of moms that may be wondering, you know, my child, something different is happening with my child, and I haven't quite, and it could be lots of things. It could be, you know, it could be somebody's child is depressed. There could be lots of things that are going on. But if you were to speak to a person who just found out that their child has, you know, some type of spectrum disorder or behavioral difference, what would be the first thing that you would say to them?
Don't wait till the last minute.
And
Do not wait till the last minute. Especially if I noticed the signs, I would write down everything that I knew. Everything that I went through, I would find out, like, the age of the kid. Like, hey, how old is your child or whatnot? And I would write down everything that I went through. Birth to 3, CLTS, Wisconsin Early Autism Project. Well, if they're out here. I don't know of anywhere else. But I would literally start them on that foot. Once you get those 3, you're smooth. You're smooth to go. Because they literally, once you're into those 3 things, they literally point you in the direction that you're supposed to go. And you basically learn from your kid. Your kid will tell you.
And if you were to meet a parent, because one of the things that I've heard over time, especially from parents that are new parents, like if their first child, this is your first and only child, they've said, you know, Stacey, I'm afraid. Like, I'm afraid. I don't know if I can do this. What word of advice would you give them regarding their own personal fear about not being enough? Because I think that all parents feel that in general. Like, I want to give my kid the world. I want to do what's best for them. But when you have a child that is beautifully different, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know all this stuff. This is a brand new, you know, set of things. And I'm afraid that I'm not going to be a good enough parent. What kind of words of courage would you do?
Never defeat yourself, because you're walking the journey with your kin. They feed off of your fear. So if you think they're different, they're going to believe they're different. Don't get your child to think that they're different. That's one thing that I tell my child, that you're just like everybody else. You can do just like everybody else. You do things a little bit different, but not that off. So never underestimate yourself.
Love that. I think that people don't give themselves enough credit, like AKA somebody named Tiffany. I think that's, but
I'm still learning.
That's because, again, to you, it's just what you have to do. And so you don't think of it as a big deal, but it is a big deal. And I'm sure anybody who watches this, for those who are on now, and for people who are going to watch it later, they're going to say, my gosh, what I complain about in a day that I have to deal with is nothing to somebody who has to get up at 2 a.m. every day to make sure their child is fed, make sure that their port doesn't, mess up, make sure that, I have to make sure that they are safe, and, things that are reactions are bigger reactions for this child, and they may not tell you that they're having, whereas some kids may say, I don't feel good, something feels bad. Your child may not do that. You have to observe a difference in your child as opposed to something that may be able to articulate. And that's a big deal. Like, honestly, you blow my mind listening to your day. And I know you don't go to sleep till late, because I'm always up and you're always up.
No, I literally don't. I literally call it Team No Sleep.
Yeah.
because she doesn't sleep either. She literally does not sleep. She's on melatonin because she's supposed to stay sleeping, and that's another dose that they're supposed to take. Autistic kids sometimes take that. They take melatonin, which is over the counter, but also if it's really bad, then the doctor prescribes something different. I'm not for drugs for my kid, so I'll do anything else before she goes on that. And if anything, it better be a life death situation before my kid goes on any type of drugs, because I'm against any of that for her. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, Leanna does have a flat spot, which we also observed too. Don't know where it came from. So she has a slight on the right side. If you look at the top of her head, it's kind of shifted. So we were trying to figure out about that too. So we're under a lot of observation as well with the doctors with that as well, which I had a lot of concern for that. So we don't know.
Amazing. I mean, if I am able to take any way, and there's no way to sum it up, and I'm literally almost overwhelmed with all the amazing information you gave today. Like, I'm processing it as you're, like, I'm trying to remember that I'm supposed to keep running this conversation, but I'm like sitting here, like, oh my gosh. What I would say is one of the things that I'm going to take away is never stop looking at your kid and never stop looking for your kid, looking for things for your kid. Right? So consistently observe your child, their differences, their behaviors, their physical self, but also never stop looking for avenues for advocating for your child. I know I only have a few minutes, but curious, where did you find that voice to advocate for your child? Because as a autism mom, you're clearly having to constantly fight for your kid to get what they need to get. Where did you get that voice?
I've always had a voice, but once God told me that I had to, do this by myself, it just got bolder.
Good for you. Good for you. A lot of people don't feel comfortable doing it. And, in healthcare, one of the things, and I've had to do it for other people, one of the things that I've noted is if you don't speak up, you could be in a bad position. So you have to be willing to do that. And for your child in particular, who, is considered a vulnerable person, if you're not willing to speak up, there could be so many things done to your child without your even like your knowledge or your full understanding, and you're like, okay, just do whatever. I just want my child to have the things, and they're like, wait a minute, don't do whatever.
Right.
Like, let me really pay attention to what is happening to my child. That's why I said, never, like, literally look at your child and never stop looking for things for your child. I think
but patience is also important. Patience is also important. You need patience in tough situations too.
I think you also need patience with yourself.
And calm. Yeah, that too.
I think, patience and calm. I think you have to be patient with yourself because, I mean, I don't care how good of a parent you are. There's going to be days where having to do this every day is frustrating. Having to do this every day is overwhelming. And, you have to give yourself grace because you have to do it. If not you, who, right? But the reality of it is, it's still, that doesn't mean that it's not difficult. That doesn't mean there aren't days that you're like, okay, God, this is a hard day. Like, I don't want to get up. I don't feel good. Like, I don't feel good. I'm mentally exhausted. Maybe I'm spiritually exhausted, but I still have to get up. Like, she has to be taken care of. So, the reality of it is, I think that you're able to give her grace. I'm hoping that you're able to give yourself some grace and recognize that it's okay to feel that way. I think one of the things that people are like, oh, I trust in God, and so do I, but I also have bad days. Like, I love the Lord, and I have bad days, And I think that people don't give themselves the grace to, like, be honest about that. And I think that's why a lot of times people get depressed, because they just try to hide the fact that they're having bad days. Like, we all have cruddy days. Like, that's just the nature of being alive. We're grateful to be alive, but, So before I finish, I just want to say I drank the tea. You probably saw me drink it. Not a fan. Not a fan at all. The tea that I had was this one, which was black currant, breeze, it could have breezed on by. Because it was, I don't even know what the flavor was. It's supposed to be like a mixed berry. No, thank you. I tried to add like some sugar to it to hope. No, it didn't. No, I don't think I like berry tea. Well, that's not true because I have like some but just not this one. Like I think I like raspberry tea, but this mixed berry tea, no, thank you, sir, ma'am. No, thank you. Not interested in that. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for letting us in on, what your day is like, letting us know. And I think what you did was, and one of the things that you're probably underestimating is you've been smiling for a majority of this, and sometimes, laugh instead of cry.
Right. I mean, I'm all cried out, basically.
But if you need to cry, that's
right.
She needs to see healthy behaviors, and people cry. Right. Like, it's the nature of life. But what I will say is, you smiling encourages my heart, because I'm like, man, she's doing it. Like, and it's not that I didn't know that you're doing it, but it's just as parents that might watch this and say, I can do this. If they have two people that are helping, and you're able to do it just you without even knowing what this was, and being in an area, another part of the country that they're not as familiar with, this said to me, man, you're a powerhouse, and the fact that you're surviving through it, it's just a testimony that you can make it through difficult things, through things that are challenging. And for you mentioned a lot your faith, you talking to God and trusting in God. And that's been an anchor for you to navigate kind of all these challenges. And so I give you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look at you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Leanna, for letting me borrow your mom.
Say you're welcome. Oh, she said no.
Oh. Yep, that's very much Leanna. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
If you are interested, please look up autism, find out more information, how you can get involved. There's lots of places where you can donate to research and support stuff, because some of the stuff is scammy. But, there are ways that you can support. And if you would like to bless Tiffany, we can find a way because, again, she's doing it. She didn't ask for me to say that, by the way, so don't think that this is like a part of the thing. I just felt led by God to say that. Right. So if you feel like you would like to bless her and her daughter, let us know. We will figure out how to bless them and continue to be a blessing. So I say at the end of every one of these, please be kind to yourself. I don't know why. I just froze a little bit. But okay, now I'm back. I don't know what that was.
A glitch.
A blessing, and then all of a sudden the screen froze. That is a lie. We're still going to be a blessing.
The devil's a liar.
Correct. And you know where he can go.
Right.
But be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. And please extend to yourself and to me a measure of grace. Have a great rest of the day, and see you next week on episode 12 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome.